Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Destiny Tech100. This was a stock analysis request from one of the followers, and I wanted to let you know that anyone can make these requests and I'll most likely cover them, especially if there is an actionable trade setup to follow. And in the case of this chart, we are unfortunately dealing with a quite ugly structure, to be honest. Yeah, we only have basically sideways movement where the initial push to the upside was in a three-wave structure. We had a very deep retracement afterwards, yeah, in what seems to be like a three-wave move to the downside. And then to the upside again, we only managed to form a three-wave move. Now, in such a case, I don't necessarily see from a large time frame perspective any indication that we should be looking for a high reliability trade setup. And yeah, maybe we can track here an internal A-B movement for a larger wave C. It could still form technically a larger 1, 2, 3, fourth and a fifth to the upside. Yeah, it could still technically work out, but it's not necessarily one of those high probability areas or setups that we are tracking here on this chart. And for such an interpretation, we do actually have a somewhat interesting reaction to this area of support for the wave B, because here at the 50% retracement we had quite a significant reaction a couple of times already in this larger ABC structure. And not only that, this movement to the downside is highly corrective. Yeah, this structure fits very well within the idea of an ABC movement. I can tell that this wave A has an ABC structure in of itself. We have a clear ABC within the wave B, and then in the wave C to the downside we have something like a 1, 2, 3, fourth and a fifth within an ending diagonal. We have gotten to the 61.8% retracement where we have started another even larger push to the upside, and if we want we can even check here the extension we have reached within the wave C, and that would be the 78.6%. yeah, and all that is good. It is a good level to extend to. We don't need to get to the 100% extension even if it is the ideal target, and all these confluences within the interpretation that we are tracking actually signify that this is somewhat of a right path at least. Now, in such a case, we can start looking for a potential 5-wave move to the upside, since within this push to the downside, within this wave B that we are tracking, we have a full structure. We don't need any additional lows. And not only that, but where it becomes even more interesting is this initial push to the upside that I can actually consider as an initial 5-wave move. Yeah, this actually works out as a potential initial wave 1 that can be used, or that can provide an internal area of support in a correction in a wave 2, where, well, technically it could, hold on a moment, it could have already bottomed. I don't necessarily have any evidence for this, and it may still retrace even deeper within it. Now, before we get into this smaller area, I do want to make one mention here on the larger time frame. This interpretation of an ABC movement to the upside can only remain a scenario of focus as long as we hold the 78.6% retracement for the larger time frame, yeah, the $14.4 level, because this wave B could still reset and it would not be a problem. But if we break that level of support, it would start being a very significant signal that this structure could rather be expected to have an even more serious push to the downside, where realistically we should be prepared even for new all-time lows. Now, with that said, in terms of resistance in this area, I also wanted to provide that before we get into the last part of this video, the correction within the wave 2. We have here the idea of a resistance area for a possible extension lower at the levels between the $33.3 all the way up to the $57.9 level, where a break above the 78.6% retracement in orange would be a signal that this structure is more likely to succeed in actually forming here the larger wave C to the upside. Now, assuming we even have a bottom within the wave C, I can actually even provide here a target for such a movement, and that would be the 100% extension of the wave A. But remember, this is the ideal target and we don't need to get there. Clearly, within this push to the downside we didn't, and we did build a full and clear structure. So yeah, maybe only to the 78.6% retracement, or not retracement, but extension. Who knows? We need to track the internal structure to actually get a more clear idea. This is a rough guess of where it might end up. It is a level the wave C is generally drawn towards. Now, with that said, we can now move here in the smaller time frame once we actually also have here this larger ABC. yeah. And in this wave 2 correction, this is the area that can be interesting, because even in a larger wave B that we can track, within this area we would still expect to form something like an ABC movement, especially since we have a potential initial 5-wave move to the upside. Now, this does not mean this area of support cannot be broken and this scenario cannot fail, but it is, or it has, very increased probabilities compared to any other areas or any other scenario that we can realistically track. The 1-2 setup is the most reliable as always, especially within an initial 5-wave move to the upside. Now, that does not apply as a wave 1 part of a larger leading diagonal, because, or part of a larger diagonal overall, because it would be within an ABC movement. And honestly, even this one I can track as that, but this structure has the ability to be counted as a 5-wave move to the upside. And in that case, we have here the area of support between the $31 all the way down to the $23.1 level, where as long as we hold here the internal 78.6% retracement, we are still looking for continuation higher in at least another 5-wave move to the upside, yeah, at least a larger wave C internally in this wave B before we extend lower. Even in the case of an overall failure from a larger time frame perspective, we would still like to see another high into the area of resistance. Now, so far we have only gotten here in terms of resistance to the 50% retracement. This is where we got rejected, and we can be looking, who knows, for possibly the 61.8% retracement, possibly the 78.6% retracement. We can actually even draw here some ideal targets for a wave C and for a wave 3, depending on what type of structure really ends up unfolding. But in the end, this would be based on the idea that the wave 2 or the wave B has already bottomed. And honestly, even in the case of a larger wave C to be forming with the current low within the wave 2 or the wave B, the ideal target for the wave C would be the 100% extension, the $59.4 level, and for the wave 3 would be the $78.4 level. Now again, this would be within the wave B, this would be within the white scenario, this would be within the orange. Now, in this smaller time frame, now we are going to focus specifically in this way, or on this wave 2. In this area, I don't necessarily have any clear indication that this correction could not be complete. What I can most reliably be tracking within this area is something like an ABC movement, in which case we have all the sufficient waves to actually consider a bottom in place. But right now, we also did not manage to create a reliable structure to the upside. We only have a choppy movement. This could very easily form something like a larger A wave down, wave B triangle. This could also be in play, and then a wave C down, or a larger correction could still play out. The idea is, from this time frame perspective, we do not have a signal or confirmation that we have bottomed indeed, and we still need to watch out here for an internal area of resistance that could allow further extensions lower, and that would be here at the levels between the $32.8 all the way up to the $37.9. So far, we have only gotten to the 38.2% retracement, meaning we did fulfill sufficient of this structure to actually consider it complete, but we have gotten severely rejected each time, yeah? Each time less than the others, yeah? It has been improving the strength of this movement to the upside. Yeah, with each push into it, it has managed to have a weaker retracement lower, but at the same time, the push to the upside has been decreasing as well. Yeah, actually, in the first push, we can notice that we even got here into the 50% retracement before getting rejected. And for now, you have these areas of resistance, or the area of resistance here internally. You have the area of support, and I wouldn't necessarily consider that we should focus too much on the internal structures. We can look here for the area of support in white for an interesting potential entry for a trade setup. But yeah, from a smaller time frame perspective, nothing in this area is reliable for an entry necessarily. We can see that we retested here several times the 38.2% retracement. We have been trending along with it within this area, but in the end, until we actually form a more reliable structure, which I don't find necessarily likely, or as long as we don't break above the 78.6% retracement in yellow, I probably still prefer another low within this wave 2. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.